Okay, today I'm going to talk briefly about Max Payne 3, a game that came out over a decade ago because I believe it came out in 2012, and I believe that was the latest entry within the Max Payne series. Max Payne 3, in my opinion, was probably one of the most underrated games of 2012 because despite how good it looked in terms of quality and it being I guess, like a polished like shooter, like action adventure type of game. It was one that did really poorly in relation to sales, mainly because it got overshadowed by various other games that came out that year. One of them being Halo 4, which, that game was not the best installment within the Halo series, but it got a lot of mainstream attention. And there were like several other video games. I believe Far Cry 3 came out that year as well. And that ended up being arguably one of the best games of that year, but it really depends on who you ask because there's some people who are hardcore Far Cry fans. But, Max Payne 3 was really underrated. Followed the events of Max Payne 2 9 years later. And basically, you see Max Payne pretty much like throughout the game, it's like he's overwhelmed with grief and sorrow and drowning his sorrows in like pills and booze and all that stuff. And I do feel that the way the story for the game was set up, it made him appear as I won't say like a relatable protagonist, but it was believable, and it made him appear strong despite the constant whining that he did throughout the game, or it seemed like, he was whining throughout the game. He seemed, pretty strong. He worked as a security guard in Brazil. He was basically hired to protect this millionaire and his daughter, and then the millionaire dies anyways, and like the whole thing's a mess, but he did get a proper, hero's send-off in the end of the game. But, a lot of people wondered why Max Payne 4 never happened. It's because Max Payne 3 didn't do too well in terms of sales, and I don't think Max Payne 2 did that great in sales either, but I believe there was a movie, like a live-action movie for Max Payne back in 2008, managed to generate over $35 million in box office revenue following its release, and like for the most part, within the past decade, we haven't like seen anything in relation to the Max Payne series, and like right now, or like as of late, there's been rumors going around on the internet that a potential remake for Max Payne 2 is set to be released sometime in the next couple of years, but we have no idea when that's going to take place. And a lot of people will go on record and argue that, Max Payne was arguably one of like Rockstar Games' most underrated video games, and honestly, I do think that's definitely the case because like there was just so much about it that was really impressive, and I don't know. You look at the fact that it wasn't a massive commercial success. It's baffling, but at the same time, it was a different time, and 2012 was one of those years where just about everything that came out was something that people would want to buy as soon as they saw it. But as far as whether or not Max Payne 3 is a game that deserves a 4K remake for a current generation game system like the PlayStation 5, absolutely. Now, this game came out for the PS3 and the Xbox 360 when it was first released. So I believe you can play this game on the Xbox Series X. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure like those who were fans of the series, they'd probably want a 4K remastered version of Max Payne 3 to play on the Xbox Series X, opposed to just updating the resolution, because I guess there are some games from the 360 era when you play it on the Xbox Series X and it updates the resolution, it just looks it looks awkward. It's not exactly what people would expect. So, I mean, a remake for Max Payne 3 would be cool, but at the same time, I don't think Rockstar Games has any plans on making that a reality. In fact, they would probably do a remake for Max Payne 2 before they do a remake for Max Payne 3, because I feel like if they were going to remake Max Payne 3, they would have done so by now. And them possibly or potentially remaking Max Payne 2 makes a lot of sense, considering the fact that I believe like this year actually marks the 20-year anniversary of Max Payne 2, because I believe the fall of Max Payne. It came out back in 2003, so that game is like 20 years old, and that's really surprising because I feel like that was also one of those games that appeared on the PS2 or during like the time where the PS2 and the original Xbox consoles getting hot, and because of like the high volume of high profile third party games that appeared on both the PS2 and Xbox, basically Max Payne 2 got overshadowed. But I definitely think that Rockstar Games should definitely do something special for Max Payne 3, and I don't think a lot of people would feel the same way, but if not Max Payne 3, definitely Max Payne 2, because that game in many people's eyes was iconic, and it was after Max Payne 2 was released that we got the movie, so obviously Max Payne 2 was more iconic and had more of a cultural impact than Max Payne 3 did, but as far as a Max Payne 4 game, I'm not exactly sure whether or not it's going to happen, because I don't think the series generated enough revenue for Rockstar Games to create a Max Payne 4 in the future. Plus, they got bigger fish to fry with Grand Theft Auto 6, which is supposed to be coming out sometime in the future.